Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, guys. I want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as seasoned. I got a word for you. Tap in. So, guys, I want to talk to you all today about the triggers of remaining still. I said something on my recording the other day, or maybe even yesterday. Actually, it was in the comment section to one of you guys, and I was saying that feeling of having a difficult time sitting still, sometimes it's triggers and we don't even realize it. It's trauma triggers. So, for example, as you guys know, there's different seasons, right? There are seasons to move, there are seasons to be still, there are seasons to give, there are seasons for this, and so on. But if you're like me, you have a very, very challenging time with the season of being still. One of those reasons for me is because, again, I've just been always in a position to be the doer, right? I am literally the person that can make it happen when no one else can make it happen. That's just my mindset. And I've always been that way. So it's very, very difficult when God says, sit still. Where with some individuals, there could be trauma triggers, especially if you came from an upbringing where you never felt safe. There was always domestic violence in the house, right? And that's the worst for a child, because it's almost like, as a child, I mean, what can you do, right? I mean, if you could break it up, if you could, you would do it. But as a child, you have no control. And so this is why sometimes with men, and particularly, not only, but in particularly I'm speaking about now, have a lot of anger issues. I've had a number of men who told me that they still live with that regret of not being able to stop their father or maybe their mother boyfriend from beating on their mom. And we know how protective men are over their mothers. So to still be carrying that thing around for 20, 30, 40 plus years, right? Things like that are triggers because you never felt safe. If you were violated, if you were molested, that means no one was there to protect you. You never felt safe. If you were given up, if you were abandoned, if you were rejected from a parent, you never felt safe. If you were in a household with parents and you may have had the different father or the different mother than the others, and the others had the same parent, you may have felt like an outcast. So you never felt safe because the others were kind of like in this alliance and you just kind of had to always fend for yourself. You never felt safe. If you were the child whose mother had to work 2 and 3 jobs just to, bring food in the house, but you were the child, maybe you were the oldest or maybe you were the responsible child, and you were literally conditioned as a child to run a household at 10, 11, 12 years old, you never felt safe because you're so busy guarding your siblings, but you're 12. So you're still having these thoughts about what if someone breaks in the house, right? When the phone rings, but we can't answer the phone because we know there's a certain ring when mama calls, and then this phone is ringing, you don't know what's like, all that stuff is trauma triggers. Trauma experiences. If you've been in abusive relationships, abusive marriage, you never feel safe. I have a stat. Well, I love her to death, but she no longer works for me. Only because her triggers, which were, if I'm honest, I've heard some stories, but her story was probably one of the worst that I've ever heard, coming from childhood. But her demons pretty much, they get the best of her at times. So it's almost like, well, I won't get into all that. But she have a hard time. She's struggling with fighting her demons, right? And it did affect her job. And she is maybe late 30s, potentially early 40s. But when she's in your presence, I don't care who you are. You can be like a I don't want to say a stranger, but somebody that she may not know like really, really well. But it's almost like she coddles under you. It's almost like she just wants you to wrap your arms around her, right? She wants to feel anybody that makes her feel safe, I should say, not just anybody or a stranger. It's almost like she coddles like a baby up under you. Or if you make a certain move, if you move too quickly, she's jumpy. And I know all the things that has happened to her in childhood as well as in her first marriage, right? So I get it completely. And that's just example of, again, people who never felt safe. So then what happens? Naturally, you go into fight or flight. You had to fend for yourself all of your life. Throughout childhood, throughout, even if you've had a marriage or a relationship and the child's father left, and now you're raising children on your own, you got to play mama and you got to play daddy. Like, you got to make it happen. You just make it happen. You make it do what to do. You got to rob Peter to pay Paul. You got to do it. Point blank, period. I just have to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. So I just have to do it because my kids is not going to go lacking. Point blank, period. And that's where a lot of people are. And so that's why I get so aggravated with this new wave of whatever going around about masculine and feminine and all this stuff like that, right? Because, and again, I hear it. I hear what people are saying. And if I have to be honest, I agree. But then it's almost like they don't want to talk about the underlying issue, other than Pastor Blake's, but it's like they don't want to talk about the underlying issues. Well, this is why you're this way. Because you never felt safe. Because you had to play the mother and the father, right? So we can't make excuses, excuse me, now being an adult to say, okay, yes, I was conditioned to be that way. Yes, I've experienced some traumatic events. But now, what can I do to start the process of healing? Because I don't want my children to carry on the same kind of load. Because if we're honest, no matter how much we as women can carry, particularly Black women, right? No disrespect to my other sisters, but I'm speaking right now as a whole to the Black woman community, because we're labeled at times of being too strong and too this and too that and too this. And the truth of the matter is we didn't have a choice. Many of us just didn't have a choice. And I do know that there are some other races who experience what we've experienced, but nowhere near the lines of what I'm speaking about. And then I do know that there are some African Americans who have not had to have that heavy load because maybe they came from that 2-parent household that was healthy and things like that. So it's never one size fit all, right? So you get my point. So at the end of the day, regardless of how much we can carry, and my God, we can carry a lot. We can carry a lot. But to what expense? Our sanity, diseases in our body because we're constantly stressed out and we're constantly tired and we're constantly doing this and taking care of everybody else, and we're not even taking care of our own self. When you look around you, everybody connected to you who you're responsible for, or sometimes not even responsible for, they're good. Oh, everything's up to par. The kids look great. The house looks great. Your man looks great. Your mama looks great. Everything is up to par. The job is perfected, but you're bust down and tired. And then the hurtful part of that is that the majority of the people who you are helping in going all out your way for don't even appreciate you. In fact, these same people will eventually flip on you. And then you're left feeling like, I did this for you. I did that. And guess what? Some of those people didn't even ask for it. That's us working from broken consciousness. That's us who are conditioned to take care of everybody else. We were taught and conditioned to put other people before us. And this is just not our generation, of course. This thing goes back to, So my point is, where does it stop? The chosen ones are the one called to break the cycles. And breaking that cycle sometimes doesn't even mean like you're going to have that thing perfected before you leave here. It's more about being an example to the ones behind you so they can realize, well, that one person did it differently. So I'm going to go that way because I'm not about to sit here and go through all this nonsense. So how do we even start to get to the point where we can trust God to say, just be still, don't put your hands in nothing? So again, that can come from my boss chicks, those of us who are running businesses and running this and running that and running that. That's going to be difficult because again, we have been placed in charge. So when everybody else can go home and just do their thing and whatever, like we don't get to just kind of like turn that knob off sometimes, right? We're working 24 hours a day sometimes, pretty much. And now all of a sudden God is telling you, okay, I'm about to shift your season. I'm not going to tell you how or when. I'm just going to tell you what it's going to be. But I just need you to sit still, mind your business, and don't do anything. But yet you're conditioned to always doing something. That's hard. Guys, if you hear someone snoring in the background, I promise you it's not a man. It is my dog. She's old. She's elderly. Please forgive her. But I promise you, it's almost like every time I start a recording, either she's coming to slurp her water or she falls asleep and starts snoring. So if you can hear that, I promise you, I'm not laying next to a man who's snoring. That is my 13-year-old peekaboo. So yeah, that's for my boss chicks, right? Then again, we got the individuals again who've experienced massive amounts of trauma, who only know how to fend for self. And so it's like when God is telling you to be still and he wouldn't even answer you. He's just telling you be still. You don't know if it's right, left, up, or down. You don't even know what's going to happen. But he's telling you to be still and he won't even answer you. That can trigger your trauma. Because you just need to feel safe. I need to feel safe. I need to know. I need to protect myself. Like, oh my God, what are you doing, God? Okay, you said sit still, but I got to make this thing happen. I got to make it happen. I got to figure it out. I got to find a way. That's trauma triggers. Because in your mind, you don't feel safe. In your body, you don't feel safe. But this is God we're talking about. We're not talking about your ex-husband or your ex-boyfriend or your molester. We're talking about God here. So yes, we say that in words, but it's still reality of our body is not feeling safe. So what do we do? Because truth of the matter is, there's nothing we can do. At least if you had an ex who were abusing you, you can just run out the house and never come back or hide behind some trees or whatever going on. Like, what can you do? Because when it's God, nothing you do is going to work. It's like he shuts everything down. And so that spikes your trauma even more because now you feel trapped. So now because you're not hearing from him, now you're trying to make this happen and the door won't even open. And now you're frustrated because this won't happen. So, it has to be this one. Now that door will open. Boom, shut in your face. And you're literally stuck like in this closet and it feels like the walls are closing in on you. As traumatic as that feels, you know what that really is? That's really stretching your faith. Even though it doesn't feel comfortable, that's really what it is God stretching our faith. And you're going to sit... I'm laughing because I'm kind of like talking to myself too, right? You're going to sit still if it feels good or not, point blank period. The worst is when you're used to having your phone blowing up. You're used to, and then like there's nothing. And then you're kind of sitting there like, what do I do with myself? And it's so crazy that we don't even know how to sit still because we're conditioned again to do everything. So also what God is doing in this season, right? Because see, God will allow something to happen, but it can teach you in different ways. So yes, he's building faith, but it's also about teaching you to be present in the moment. We're so used to thinking about this, that. We're in the middle of shopping, but we're thinking about jobs, kids, husband, this. Then we're picking up the wrong stuff. Then get upset when we get back to the car. Like, oh my goodness, I meant to get Heinz, not this watered down ketchup. Because we're not even in the moment. So, in the next season, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to have to be in the moment. If that means God is going to be bringing you a purpose partner, you're going to have to be in the moment. Because, first of all that stuff that you're doing now, people pulling at you, you're doing this, and that ain't going to be part of the plan. It's going to be you and your purpose partner and whatever God says to do. So all that other outside stuff that we're conditioned to be doing, those people can't be pulling at you anyway. So he's really preparing you for those of you who will be pushed into purpose next season. He's shutting some things down with your jobs and your careers, and you're freaking out because you're like, I don't have no money. He's really just preparing you for the next season because it's going to be purpose driven and you'll be fed there. But it's because we just don't know. It does not feel good to not know. Like, you know, right? There's no question. You know what it is. It's just that you don't know the process of getting there, which is none of our business, really. The way we get there and the time frame we get there is really none of our business. We're just nosy. Just imagine if we could get like a hold of God's cell phone, right? Oh, you talking about be creeping, peeping, and everything else in that cell phone when he sleeps. God. Lord, please forgive me. But anyway, I want to just encourage you guys, because one of you in the comment section, I forgot who it was. Oh, who was it? One of you guys, one of my commenters, or you may comment. And when I said that not feeling good thing was trauma triggers, and you was like, oh my goodness, yes, that's all it is. Think about it. Think back on God's track record. Every single thing that God ever told you he would do, he would do. If he didn't do it, that was never God. That was you and your flesh wanting that thing, right? When have God never provided for you? Even if you were at your lowest of your lowest, when has he never not provided and taken care of you? Never. Even if it came down to that very second, he's always provided. So the track record is there. So why are we freaking out because we don't know? Because we're traumatized. And we just don't know how to just let someone else drive and steer. Speaking of that, next season, that's really what it's going to be about too, right? Of course, a partnership, but you ain't going to be driving the boat all alone. So you got to learn how to even be in a partnership. Some of us don't even know how to be in partnerships because we've never had healthy partners. So all the stuff God is teaching us for our benefit, but we're fighting against it because we just don't know. We just don't know. But I'm end this by saying, and I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again. Please don't ever make any apologies to anybody for being a strong Black woman or a strong woman. Because there's power in strength. And your strength is what's going to be able to pull you and your partner through when these seasons start shifting around. So these same men who are out here criticizing Black women in particular because they're too masculine and they can't even recognize that they're really like the majority of them are like the cause of this stuff, walking away from your child's mother, and you're pushing her in that role. These fathers who are absent and mothers have to do the best they could and they condition us because they don't know, like, you're the cause of it. But yet you're blaming us for being too this and too that. So again, I can't lie. I agree with that. We have to get to, and this is, trust me, you're talking about intentional. You're talking about intentional. You're going to have to be, I just had a flashback a couple of years ago, not recent, a couple of years ago. I went on, God. I went on a date with this guy, right? Not the guy I was telling you guys with the, and he's a man, all caps. I love men, period. All caps. All caps. I ain't got time for no foolishness. I like a man, a mature man. All caps. MAN. Period. No disrespect to my younger guys. Love for you guys too, right? But I ain't got time for that. And it's not everybody, because you got some young guys who are, honestly, you got some young guys who were like raised by grandparents or just are very mature, and they had that mentality of a 50-year-old, 60-year-old man. And then you got some 40, 50, and 60-year-old man who got the mindset of a 20-year-old. So it's not everybody, right? But anyway, God, we had already went on, at this point, about 4 dates, just dinner dates, right? And each time I drove, right? He would send me the address and we would meet there. Very elegant, VIP parked, whole 9 yards, very upscale restaurants. And he said to me, I think it was maybe like dinner number 4 we were on. And he said, Kizzy, he said, I really admire the fact that, you're all about safety and all this stuff like that. He said, we're on dinner date number 4, Can I at least pick you up for the, because he was asking, like, since the first date to, like, pick me up type thing. And in my mind, I'm like, your girl, I will meet you there. Well, thank you. I will meet you there. And so he was like, can I pick you up? Because listen, I'm a man, period. Right? So next time I'm picking you up. And I said, okay, but when I left, you talking about some triggers? And I'm talking to myself, right? And I had me a glass of champagne. I'm talking to myself. He is not picking me up. I only know you. This is the 5th date. I don't know what you can be trying to throw me up in the river. My mama loved her child. Nope, I'm driving. I told him yes, but I'm going to come up with an excuse and tell, right? I'm thinking all this stuff in my head, which is logical, seriously, right? Because you got to be careful nowadays. But I mean, at this point, it was the 5th date and we had already been like speaking and like vibing for like some few months at this time. But then, even though it was more about being smart and wise and intelligent about safety, when I really tap into that thing, it was also about, again, triggers. So sometimes what happens when you don't have a history of always feeling safe for whatever reason, really what you're doing, you're making excuses and you don't even realize it, when really it's about that trigger. Why wouldn't I feel safe after someone that obviously I chose to hang out with all this time? So you're coming up with all these scenarios in your head. Well, what if the date goes bad and then I'm stuck? Right? All these things. First of all, you're never stuck. Because God ain't gonna let nothing happen to you, right? You're never stuck. You got Uber, right? You got money in your pocket, hopefully. That's one thing my mother taught us since we were like little girls. She was like, I don't care who got money. If you don't have, you bet not go if you don't have no money, right? So, but my point is, I don't even know where that came from, but maybe one of you guys are dating and it's almost like you're putting up all these walls and this person has already proven themselves and you're coming up with all these excuses. And truth of the matter is, it's really not about that person. It's about you and you're not feeling safe and you're putting up all these triggers and traumas and all that stuff like that. And I'm going to be honest, if it's not a real man who can really see past that stuff, he ain't got time for that. So he's going to leave you right there, right? But a real man is going to see past that and then he's going to bring it to your attention respectfully, right? Because we had that conversation like after I got home and but he's going to bring that to your attention. And that's something that you're going to have to be intentional working on. This is why it's easy for people to run off good men, because sometimes you're too guarded to the point that you're not even open for a conversation, right? The communication is not even there because in your mind, you're just still in fight or flight mode. It's like, nope. I don't hear nothing you have to say. Nope, 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 nope. They can't even get past that wall. But if you give them just a little entryway, and when they can understand why you're the way you are, especially if God sent them, they will have a great they will have a grace to deal with your mind, right? They'll have a grace to see certain things. They will have a grace to see that you've been wounded and harmed and things like that. And then they will slow walk it on whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're not giving them anything to work with, tell him he ain't got time for that. He ain't got time for that. Not when the ratio with men to women is what it is. He ain't got time to deal with you and your foolishness. Right. Okay. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So never apologize for being a strong woman. We just, again, we have to learn, and you have to be intentional, learn how to shelf it, right? Shelf it and bring it out at times. That will not happen on your first date. That will not happen on your second date. That will never happen to a person that you do not feel safe and comfortable and secured around. That will never, ever happen. So I don't care if you got 1 million men in a stadium shouting about woman needed. If she does not feel safe and you have not provided that safe place where she can feel herself and feel secured and not feel like she has to be in fight or flight, it will never happen. You can shout till the cows come home. It will never, ever, ever happen. So if you want to run to other races or certain races because you feel like you can just run over people and do whatever, not saying that, my sisters, I'm not saying that you let men run over you, but that's what some of them say, right? They don't have to answer and they don't have to, well, listen, boo, go do what you do. Because guess what? When these seasons shift on your behind and she can't really hold you down because she don't have that history of using strength and building muscle for strength, you run back then. You run back then. We gonna hold you down, point blank, period. Say what you want to say about us, but we gonna hold you down, point blank, period. But yes, we do have to learn. We have to be intentional. We have to heal to be able to put that strength up, because we're not supposed to be walking around here carrying a house on our back. We were conditioned with that nonsense, right? Put that thing on the shelf. Find you a man who is a man, a godly man who God sends. And he don't have to be churchy, sanctified, and holy. As long as he loved the Lord, honey, we can work. Right? Okay. Let him lead or partnership, whatever y'all got going on. When these seasons shift and the world is on his shoulder, you bring your strength out. Right? Because that's your boo. Right? Okay. Listen, I did not mean for this to be this long. How long have I been yapping? Oh, Jesus, almost 30 minutes. You guys have a great one. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.